Hey everyone, if you want to make your own podcast but you don't know where to begin, Spotify for Podcasters makes it super easy. They've got everything in one place, it's totally free, and you can make money while doing it. Here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start doing it today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and pretty much everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also supported, and you can even conduct polls and Q&As. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, the platform is totally free. No catch, totally free. When I wanted to start my own podcast, I did not know where to begin, and I didn't think it was even possible. And Spotify for Podcasters made it happen. They made it easy, they made it quick, and I am doing something that I love. What more can I ask for? So if you're interested in starting your own show, you can do it, and I highly recommend you give this a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of Everything Kratom, the podcast about anything and everything Kratom. Great to have you with us on this Monday morning. Hoping all's well with you out there today, as always. Today's a video episode. If you're listening, you can still follow along, no worries. But if you feel like it, check it out on YouTube. Okay, so today I wanted to talk about something that is basically in all the Kratom social media, and it's, what people are talking about in general. And it's a case involving a 23-year-old guy who passed away last December, and his parents are filing a bunch of lawsuits against the Kratom industry, basically organizations, individuals, some vendors, and they are alleging that their son died directly from and only from taking Kratom. Specifically this black liquid Kratom extract shot thing. And so I just, to set the record straight and clear right off the bat, I always want to give the benefit of the doubt to people who have just lost a family member and are trying to get to the bottom of it, and they're saying Kratom did it and Kratom's involved. I don't really see myself as being someone who has a right to be like, no, you are wrong, and especially because I lost my brother this past year around the same time, actually, and he was addicted for, over 10 years to opiates and ended up taking his own life because of relapse. And so I feel for family members who are in this position, and all I can say is I'm so sorry. And I'm not trying to prove anyone wrong here, but I am trying to point something out that I don't think people are really pointing out here, and I think it's important. So let's do it. When I looked at this case, something that I realized right away is that although there are no other illegal drugs or alcohol found in their son's system, these parents also mentioned in the report they filed for this lawsuit that their son had only, in addition to Kratom, hydroxyzine, which is an antihistamine, and citalopram, which is an antidepressant. And both of those things stuck out to me more than anything else about this. Like, this, I think, is the new thing that we should be all talking about when it comes to, is Kratom dangerous? Because honestly, at this point, it's hard for me to say that I've seen any evidence that Kratom is dangerous on its own. Out of the 150 some odd cases that the CDC says Kratom was involved in a death, 90 of them say that it is the main cause of death. And then out of those 90, there's only 7 where officially on paper that it's the only substance. And then in the reports, the CDC says, actually, we can't rule out the fact that there might have been other drugs and more testing is needed. And that, in combination with something that I found last year when I was doing some research into this sort of thing, Colorado. There was a study done in Colorado, and I'm sharing all these things, and the links to these resources are in the description of this podcast, so you can always go check these out yourself and check that I'm sourcing the information correctly. But there was this study in Colorado that says deaths in Colorado attributed to kratom, and it looked at all the deaths, 15 in total, between 1999 and 2017. Okay. And what I had found, I did an episode on this before. A lot of these, which were ruled kratom deaths, you end up finding that autopsy number 1, autopsy number 2, different testing, found subsequently more substances in most of these cases in the bodies of the people who had passed away. And there's this really nifty chart that, again, you can go check this out yourself. There's a few of these cases where there's no illegal drugs that were found in those follow-up testing, toxicology testing reports. And what stuck out to me when I did the episode on this Colorado thing is that there seemed to be something about citalopram or antidepressants and then antihistamines. So listen to this or look at this, depending on how you're tuning in today. One of the ones that says that this person died from kratom, 2015 case, they were kratom positive. Another, follow-up test found that there was fentanyl. But then if you look at other drugs identified through the comprehensive testing that this study conducted, they also found, among 2 other things, including THC, diphenhydramine, okay, Benadryl. There's another one. Oxycodone was, found in addition to kratom, but also fluoxetine, which is antidepressant. And, not to mention also ephedrine. Keep going down. There's more. And then there's 2 others. One, diphenhydramine, among many other substances. And then the one that stumped me. This is the one case, and I've always said this, been completely consistent here, I have to say. And I might not be a consistent person in general when it comes to like what I think about kratom, because my thoughts change sometimes. This is the one thing that I pointed out right after I read this study, and I'm like, we gotta watch this, okay? 2016 case. Somebody died from kratom. The only other substance found in their body, the first follow-up test and the second follow-up test found nothing. And then this comprehensive final follow-up test for the study found only one other thing in their body, okay? Citalopram. What is it called? I think it's called Celexa. Maybe people know it by that name. Citalopram. It's an antidepressant. This freaked me out because I know a lot of people who use citalopram, and I even had it prescribed to me for a little while way back when. I didn't even know about kratom at the time, and it didn't work out for me. I was done with it after like a month or 2, or a few months, sorry. But this freaked me out because it's like anybody could be using citalopram and not, be thinking about the fact that maybe it interacts with kratom or kratom interacts with that. And how weird is it that every single follow-up study done, there was nothing else found? Like, this is the best case that I've found to support the idea that kratom can kill someone in and of itself. But even this case showed citalopram. And so when I finished that episode, I said towards the end, this is something we need to watch out for, because I'm not someone who's a crazy proponent of kratom, just like I'm not an opponent of kratom. I'm not going to sit here and say kratom is super safe no matter what, and it's never the cause of death. No, I'll never say that. We don't know that. And this person, these parents, they have a pretty compelling case that their son died from kratom. However, there's 2 other aspects here. The antidepressant one, which caught me off guard, and that it immediately made me think of the study. I had to go find it again. Citalopram. Here's the other thing. Again, source is linked in the description of this episode. Just last week, I did an episode on antihistamines. And specifically pointing out this article, wake up call, allergy medications may play a deadly role in the opioid epidemic, CDC study suggests. Okay, this is from the CDC, okay? And what they've been finding is that out of the around 92,000 drug overdose deaths between 2019 and 2020, at least 18%, involved or tested positive for antihistamines. More than 71% of those included Benadryl, diphenhydramine. Okay? So that is crazy. And if you think about this, I've got a calculator here, and for everyone who's watching, you can double check my math, right? So if they're saying in the other article where the parents are saying that Kratom killed their son and that Kratom is playing a major role in this epidemic, I guess, let's check the case number. They've said that 90 cases had been considered the cause of death, right? But then in only 7 of those, Kratom was the only substance found. Let's run with that number and assume that that's correct, even though, like I said, there's more to it than that. So, how do we do it, kids? 7 divided by 92,000 times 100. 0.0076%. If you look at antihistamines, it's 90 deaths, okay, involved antihistamines as the sole drug in that year, 2019-2020. Overdose deaths, a little fewer than 0.1% of those deaths involved only antihistamines, which means you can die from only taking antihistamines. Okay? CDC saying right here, you can die from only antihistamines, right? While more than 82% of the deaths co-involved opioids. Okay? So we're talking about 16,000 deaths involving antihistamines. 90 deaths were only antihistamines. And then most of them, 82%, involved other opioids. When you do the math for Kratom, you're getting 0.0076%. If that figure of 7, deaths only involving Kratom is correct, which again, I must state, the CDC itself has said that they haven't been able to rule out other drugs involved, okay? I'm not like touting this, to be like, woo woo, Kratom rocks. It's literally what they said. CDC says that. But they're openly saying that 90 people have died because of only antihistamines. So let's put these two things together. And I think this is really this is coming to my point here today, everybody. I will never say to any set of parents or any family members, especially after my own experience with my brother dying, that they're wrong and that Kratom didn't play a role in someone's death in their family. And here, I think it's quite clear Kratom did. I think it's pretty obvious that it probably played a role, right? I mean, there's only 3 substances here. None of them are illegal drugs. One of them's a prescription and one of them's an antihistamine. But at the same time, I can't not point this out. Like, I haven't seen anyone talking about this. Antihistamines have been involved in opioid deaths and also kill people on their own more than Kratom has been found to. And the one case that I can find where Kratom is the only substance in someone's body, other than one other substance that's not an illegal drug, it was citalopram. And a lot of those other cases involving diphenhydramine. And this case, the set of parents, their son, died from taking Kratom or Kratom extract shot, and then an antihistamine and citalopram. I think Kratom certainly plays a role in this. If not, it could be the main player here. It's not, I don't think, the sole reason why this happened. Because it seems to me that there's something weird going on here between antidepressants, specifically citalopram, Kratom, how those two things interact with each other, right? So I'm not taking Kratom out of the equation. I'm saying how those two things interact with each other freaks me out. This is the second time that I've seen this where I'm like, wow, I'm kind of thinking that maybe citalopram and Kratom are a deadly combo, and I don't know. I don't know. But that freaks me out. And then the other thing, the antihistamines, I mean, they're killing people more than Kratom is, even on their own, let alone they're often found in combination with opioids. And so I know that Kratom isn't like, it's not as straightforward to say that Kratom is an opioid. And I've done episodes on that too. So you can listen to those if you want. So I'm certainly not saying Kratom is an opioid and end of story. But obviously it's pretty darn similar in some ways. It acts on the same receptors in some ways. So obviously there's enough overlap with Kratom and opioids where it doesn't seem like a far stretch to me to think that if antihistamines interact poorly or even in a deadly way with some opioids, that they might interact poorly or in a bad way with Kratom. Putting all that together, I feel like it needs to be said that two things. One, and this is something that Kratom opponents will probably appreciate, I think that Kratom probably played a pretty big role here, and I don't think that it makes sense to dismiss that. And then for Kratom proponents, it's not the only thing in their son's body, and just because there's nothing illegal found doesn't mean that the two other things found in his body didn't play an equal role in this. And why would anyone not think that? Like, those are the three things that have been found, and so far all I can find is really sketchy evidence, you know, that Kratom interacts poorly with definitely citalopram, or probably, and then maybe even antihistamines. So anyway, I'm not trying to stir the pot here or to be like that guy, but I feel like it needs to be said and people need to start paying attention. So my recommendation to everyone following this episode would be, again, I'm going to repeat what I said when I was talking about the citalopram thing the first time. If you take an antidepressant, and specifically citalopram, I would suggest, I'm not a doctor and I'm not in any way saying someone should or shouldn't take any substance here, just so we have that out of the way, I would suggest that you don't take Kratom until we learn more about this. That'd be my suggestion, but, you know, everybody's got their own agency. And then antihistamine wise, this is just a curveball. I mean, antihistamines are just like, antihistamines, who would have thought that, like, you know, an antihistamine would play such a large role in the number of overdose deaths that happen recently, and that more antihistamines, you know, or antihistamine deaths have happened than Kratom deaths. Like, per the CDC, more people have died from like diphenhydramine, from Benadryl, than they have from Kratom. It's I don't know. I think it's pretty wild. And I also think that it's interesting that CDC study came out just recently about how antihistamines are playing a role. And then this comes up again. And the final point I want to make is this, and I've made this point with the antihistamine episode I did last week. This, how do I put this? I think that Kratom should be looked at and researched, and if it's found to be involved in a death, we should really take a critical look at Kratom. But why would we look at it any differently from antihistamines? If we know that antihistamines have killed people directly like 10 times more than we supposedly think Kratom has been the only substance involved, and then you expand that outwards and it's been involved in 16,000 overdose deaths, where Kratom, it's been involved in like 150 or something like that, then why would we say we need to ban Kratom, but we're not going to ban antihistamines? I guess that's what I'm trying to say with that point. It's like, if I don't know, it just seems really ridiculous to me. Like, the reasoning for banning Kratom seems to always fall back on the idea that it is dangerous when mixed with other substances, and then once in a while you get these cases where it seems to be the only substance. But then the CDC puts this thing out saying antihistamines can be deadly on their own, much more so than Kratom, and that it's involved in way more overdoses than Kratom, and it might be playing a role in those overdoses. And the resulting reaction isn't to, have an upcry and upheaval and say we need to ban antihistamines. It makes no sense. There's no difference. I mean, why wouldn't we treat them the same? If we don't want people to be hurt or injured or pass away, why wouldn't we treat them the same? So anyway, I don't know. I think that both those things are important to point out. The citalopram part of it and the antihistamine part of it. Again, I'm not saying that this person did or did not die from Kratom directly and only in any of that. But what I am saying is that Kratom plus citalopram plus antihistamines equals I'm not sure, and that's really, I don't know. But it's something that people should be looking at and be careful with. And I guess the final thing is just I'm sorry again to the family, and definitely I feel the pain. So I'm sorry to you guys out there. And yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to leave it there. So I hope that you all, are nice out there. If you're in the internet, on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you're talking about this stuff, Reddit, be respectful. It's not easy when someone loses someone, and especially can't imagine a son. I have to think about that about my parents a lot, that they lost their son. So I know that there's a lot of emotion involved, and also there's this weird, strange substance that they didn't know anything about until they found their son dead, and there's this kratom extract stuff there, and then there's like an allergy pill, and there's his prescription antidepressant medication. So obviously kratom did it. I think it's a little more complex than that, but I also completely understand the anger here. I do think that we shouldn't be jumping to banning something because of it, unless this happens a lot more. But I do think we should be looking into this seriously and taking a good hard look at how this interacts with antidepressants and antihistamines, as well as everything else out there. So, all right, that's my 2 cents. I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully that was pretty middle of the road and respectful to everybody. That's always my goal. And, keep on keeping on. Be safe out there. All right, everybody. Take it easy. We'll be back tomorrow. Bye-bye.